this will only go to 15 minutes, so I can't go any longer than that. First thing I want to show you is how to do the scan. We got 2 scanners in the lab, one at this computer and one at that back computer. We'll have to check which computer is actually hooked up to the scanner back there. But the same process, you know, if you ever forget how to get your scan going, it's better just to go directly to Photoshop. So if you want to scan, get thee to Photoshop. Go to Photoshop, and what you want to do is import a document, and make sure the scanner's on. You know, Photoshop's not going to be able to see the scanner if it's not on. So what I'm going to do is go to, and I've already imported this one. So what I'm going to do is File, Import, and it's called WIA support. I don't know what that means. But that's what you're going to look for if your scanner itself does not show up in that import list. So I'm going to hit Start. Scan. Well, this is good. Oh, you left it in there. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to take your stuff out of the scanner also. So, I'm going to scan that real quick. You can do color, blah, blah, blah. But that's all you got to do for that. Once it is scanned, since you are away from your workstation, you need to save your document either to a jump drive or quickly upload it to Blackboard for yourself. Or you can email yourself. I email myself all the time, you know. Isn't it funny just living? It's like you don't write letters to yourself through snail mail. I mean, that'd be all, but we email ourselves all the time. So, so once you scan it, it's going to pop up in Photoshop as just an image with a background. You likely will need to level it. Whenever I'm talking about leveling something, you're adjusting the contrast. It's going to vectorize better if it's got a lot of contrast. But whenever you're leveling something, you can level out your lines. If you put too much leveling on it, you know, you do want to clean up some of the grayscale stuff that may be on the image, but don't do so much that you start to get rid of your image. Let's see what else. This guy's great. He's a great drawing. He's closed everywhere. Remember, this technique of vectorization, most everybody's used paint before. In the paint, you've used the paint bucket tool before. You know what happens if an area is open. You know, it's going to flood. That paint's going to go everywhere where you don't intend for it to. So this guy looks good. So after you scan him and he appears like this, the best way to save your document out is just go to Save for Web. You could do Save as a JPEG, but it's better to go to Save for Web because it's going to allow you to do this, to see what the actual resolution and image size is. And this is good quality. It needs to be at least 1,000 pixels tall or wide. If I hit Control-0 there, that's going to center my graphic. It looks a little pixely there, but it's not really. You know, but you do always want to check. You know, you really want to be methodical and look around, make sure there's no openings, because it's easier to correct here than it is in Illustrator. So this looks pretty good. I'm not going to save this out, but again, you would either save this to the desktop of the computer where you're scanning or just shoot it to your jump drive real quickly. But now that it's saved, I need to get it to Illustrator. And I'm real quickly, just since I'm in the same environment, I'm just going to copy this and paste it over to Illustrator. So Control-C of that selection right there. Go to Illustrator. You could do it on a new layer to keep your bowl thing separated from, but I'm just going to put it in here. You can arrange all that later. There that fella is. And make a copy. You know, you may goof it up, you know. So make a copy of it before you actually vectorize it. Once it is inside of Illustrator, Illustrator recognizes it as a vector object. And once it's selected, your live trace option is active. So what I like to do with this version of Illustrator is just go ahead and do any sort of trace. And once I do that trace, I want to look at it to make sure that none of my lines broke. to be sure that none of them opened up, because that happens sometimes. But I also have a little bit of control over the properties of the tracing. So if I open that little guy right there, see all these tracing options, I can adjust the threshold. That's basically the contrast, the way that Illustrator sees the lines and the light and the dark in it. This was done very well, so he traces very well, but you also can adjust the smoothness of the lines. So you really just want to tool around with it a little bit. But once he looks good, the character looks good, you can go ahead and do what we call expanding the tracing. The tracing does not look like a vector object until you actually expand it. So you'll know you're in the right place once you hit expand and you can actually see the outlines of the object. Okay, now that I've got all of those parts of the graphic vectorized, we of course want to get rid of this background. You got two main select tools in Illustrator, your dark and your hollow. I call this one a hollow, or they call it direct selection tool. With the main tool, it grabs the entire grouped object. You could ungroup all of this, but that is bad news. You don't want to do that because you've got all of these little bitty objects that you would have to wrangle. And I've been wrangling pixels and vectors a while, and it's a lot easier to leave them all together. It's better to just go for your hollow tool. I'm going to click off first. This is the place where I tell people to click off. And so this is a time when you would click off, and then just select this perimeter area around your object. Once that perimeter area is selected, and again, this is happening because of the direct selection tool. It's letting us select one part of a grouped object. You then can either use backspace or delete to get rid of that area there. If you wanted to start adding colors, direct select that one area that you want to color. There are different ways to look for your colors. You can either go to this deal right here. Be aware that when you're dealing with color, the color is going to have a fill, interior color, and then an outline color. Probably you want to leave the outline colors as black, but not necessarily so. So that's the mouth area. I could make that a fill there. But I do suggest you guys try to put gradients into this. They just give a more cereal box cone sort of look. It's just going to look nicer. Once you put a gradient in there and you want to adjust it, with that object still selected, but before I do this, I'm going to go to my solid tool. You can do all sorts of cool things with the gradients. And I probably would go with, this is a linear gradient, moving from one direction to the other. I can change the angle of that gradient to go different directions. But I also can go to a radial gradient instead of just a linear gradient. And of course we want that to, but he's a crystal guy, telling what the inside of his mouth looks like. But if I wanted different colors here, any of these little areas here, if you just double click on any one of those, you can put other colors in there, and then you can increase the gradient share. If you want to get rid of, something else that's cool to do, you can also add transparencies. This particular color right here, right now its opacity is 100% opacity. So if I wanted to actually lessen that, and that can be pretty cool effect too when you start layering other objects too. So, but that's your gradient tool. Let me actually just do it for the bigger part of the body. Show you what that would look like. Just choose one randomly, and then if I wanted to adapt it, if I don't want as many colors, just slide them all the way over and out. Right, so now that's a gradation between two colors. Let's say I wanted this to be a double color. Of course, just double click there. You get something different. He's becoming pukey. But if I want another color here in the middle, just click. And you can put another color. So So you'll be able to get a lot nicer graphic look by goofing around with the gradients. Once you get a gradient that you like and you want to apply it to another area, I've selected that area. If I hold down Shift, I can do multiple selections. And then a very other common tool is the eyedropper tool. So I've got those areas selected, and to copy this here, just go like that and it's going to apply that. And then if you want to adjust those individually, you can click off and select that one area individually to work with. So that's it in a nutshell in terms of cleaning up your character. But let's look real quickly at fixing this bowl. And unlike you guys, I haven't drawn a very nice bowl yet. Let me get rid of the bottom of this. And again, if I look at this, is just a rendered object as of right now. That's all it is. So I want to adjust that. So I'm going to get my pencil tool. Let's see. Let's give it a little bit more length this direction. There we go. We're getting there. And let's let this mark come out. Whoa! Control Z will undo. I'm going to go with this just for the sake of time. Okay, so I want to work with this guy, this object here. We've got to give this, because right now I cannot put anything inside of this. So what I've got to do is, and again, always I make copies of these in case I goof it up. I'm a goof upper from way back. But now this object, since I'm through manipulating it, this is the shape. Let's say actually I want to move it a little bit more though, so that I can see down into it a little bit. So what I want to do, if you want to make adjustments to this 3D filter that I put on this object, you're going to do that with your appearance tool. So right here I can see the 3D revolve effect that has been put on here. So to change that, I'm going to go to 3D revolve, turn preview back on. That will re-render it. But I want to look down into that bowl a little bit. So I'm going to grab this. And I think that looks good. That way we're going to get more of your objects in there. And that's if you've been looking at cereal boxes and stuff, that's probably what that bowl angle is going to be more like. So you can really see all of the material in it. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And if I'm finished with that, one more thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to darken. Oops. Oh yeah, let me go back to this. Also be aware that you can change your light sources, because right now I'm not seeing a nice edge. So I want to get a better edge visible on this, and that's okay. Just be aware that you can adjust the lighting on these objects. You can add multiple objects. You can also shade with custom colors if you wanted it. See, the red appeared there. So really you can get your colors in the same sort of color family depending on what you're trying to do with your cereal box. So let's say I go with that. So now I'm ready to flatten this object. And remember, that's very important when you're generating these 3D objects. If they are unflattened, the computer has to continue rendering the object. And it's better just to flatten them into simple vectors, and it's just a lot easier on your computer's processing. So I'm going to flatten this one. That's an object command. So object expand appearance. And once I do that, I just see the vectors of this object. And this might actually make this easier than what I was going to show you guys. I was thinking I was going to do a clipping mask on this, but I think this might work. So I'm going to copy this one. And basically I need the front edge of this. So to do this, what I'm going to do is get my hollow selection tool. Now let's just see if this works.